Hello everyone, Fanta here, you're watching Fantavision, and today I am discussing how many different journalism outlets, well, gaming journalism outlets, have been discussing how we should temper our expectations when it comes to these new systems. Now, Microsoft and Sony are definitely not on that boat. I don't believe they're telling the public to, hey, calm down about these new systems, don't be too excited, because that would be the complete opposite of what their job is. Their job is to sell you this new system, get you hyped up, and have you buy it day one, because they want that audience to be as big as possible to sell as many games as possible so they can make as much money on licensing, Xbox Live, all that sort of stuff over on the new system. So they want everyone to early adopt as possible. But who is really right in this scenario? Should we be tempering our expectations, or should we expect more from these consoles than what they have been providing? Or have they really been bigger jumps than we thought? Because I've been looking back and thinking about the different launches of all these different systems and how the reception was and how the difference was in graphics. And let's go all the way back. Let's kind of do a quick history lesson here. Let's think about the differences in games. So, let's go all the way back to the NES. Now, the NES graphics were not very good. They're not good. It did not age very well. Mario aged amazingly, I gotta say. It's just a platformer game. It doesn't really matter what it looks like, and they did such a good job making the sprites and everything. I think it's fine even to this day. However, when you jump to the Super Nintendo, it aged phenomenally. This is the cream of the crop when it comes to nostalgia and people reliving their childhood, because the games are very playable and the games still look great, especially if you've got one of those systems that will upscale it for you, or you've got some cable that's going to upscale it. But the difference between Donkey Kong on the NES and Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo was huge. And then the jump from that to Nintendo 64, let's take Bad Fur Day, for example. Yeah, this was the beginning of 3D graphics. Yes, the graphics weren't amazing. A lot of the games did not age very well because of those 3D graphics, but that was a huge jump. That was the jump from 2D to 3D. Think about Star Fox on the Super Nintendo and Star Fox 64. I would argue that game aged amazingly, but that's kind of an opinion thing. But Star Fox on the Super Nintendo objectively looks terrible. It just looks like a bad game. Whereas on the 64, it's amazing, and then when they redid it in HD, it was even better looking. So I feel like that was another big jump when it comes to technology. Now, the GameCube, from N64 to GameCube, another huge leap. And they started perfecting 3D graphics. Wind Waker is gorgeous. Twilight Princess looks great. Super Smash Bros. Melee. Spider-Man 2 on all the different consoles. Halo was in the original Xbox. That's another jump from system, because that was Xbox's foray into it, and it was the same generation, so I'm going to include it. And that was a big graphical leap in generations. Massive. Then, the original Xbox to the 360, another big jump. GameCube to Wii, there were lots of games that definitely looked a lot better, but it wasn't as big because Nintendo wasn't really focusing on HD graphics, whereas the PS2 to PS3, huge jump. Not in the beginning, but definitely near the middle/end of the console life cycle, you saw a massive difference between PS3 and PS2 games. And you know what? Thinking back between 360 and Xbox One, when it first came out, the Xbox One, I was not super impressed, because near the end of a generation of consoles, a lot of the games are looking phenomenal, and the games that are just coming out and launching for those new systems, they're not really pushing the power. The developers are not really used to working with that platform yet, so they're still kind of developing for the old technology, and they still have that old frame of mind. But now you look at Red Dead Redemption 2, you look at the new Call of Duty games, you look at all of these brand new games with brand new graphics. They take hundreds of gigabytes, they take forever to update, but they look amazing. And you really only see what the system is capable of a couple years in and near the end. And what am I getting at here? What am I saying with all this? I'm saying that I do agree that we should temper our expectations for the console launch. I don't think games are going to be looking that amazing when the system first comes out. When they did this Xbox gameplay reveal, they showed off games that didn't really seem to need to be on an Xbox Series X. I mean, a lot of these games looked like they could easily run on the Xbox One as it is now. They don't seem like pushing the boundary, and I feel like that's kind of a mistake. I don't know that these systems should launch with these subpar games almost every single time. I guess the 360 launched with some amazing games, but I don't understand why these past generations, like the Xbox One and PS4, they launched with just trash. I mean, PS3 launched with trash too. I'm going to be completely honest. That was not a good launch for that system. That struggled for a while and then slowly caught up to the 360 when it came to competition and games. But it definitely took a while. And I think that's what these articles are trying to say, is they're just like, these games are not going to look amazing when they first come out because we're already used to amazing looking games. However, I think we should expect more from these new systems, because every single time I play a game on the console and then I play a game on the PC, it's like a generational difference. It feels like when I'm on the PC playing something, like, let's take Far Cry 3, for example. I mean, if you play Far Cry 3 on the console and then you play it in the PC, it's insane. But if you want to bring it even closer, I mean, Far Cry 4 on the PC versus console, huge difference. Division, huge difference. Call of Duty, pretty big difference. There's not as much of a difference for sure, but there's definitely that difference in fidelity, frame rate. And that's the thing that we for some reason have just come to accept with these systems, is the constant drop in frame rate. I've noticed it in so many different games. It even happened in Red Dead Redemption 2 quite a bit. There's just this noticeable drop in frame rate when the action gets going, and it's just so bothersome. And there's so many shadows that just look awful. There are different bugs that are obviously only existing in the console version because of one hindrance or another, something that's bottlenecking the system. And computers, you can constantly upgrade and make better, and they tried to fix that issue with making the Xbox X, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, Xbox One X. That's still so confusing. And they're trying to remove that difference between PC upgrading and console upgrading by having these in-between systems, but even those don't really seem to remedy the situation, because a lot of the times they're somehow not optimizing these games for these new systems. I remember when the PS4 Pro first came out, there's games that were running worse on the PS4 Pro than they were on the regular PS4 because they were not optimizing these games correctly. I mean, it was a huge misstep by Sony. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but I mean, that was a big drawback. And then the Xbox One X, yeah, the games are running smoother, they're loading faster, but it wasn't as much of an upgrade as needed. It didn't feel like you were buying a brand new graphics card for your computer. And I don't know that they'll ever get to that level. I know they're always going to be lagging behind PCs. There's always going to be people that are going to be, I don't want to get a computer for one reason or another. But when it comes to lowering our expectations for next-gen graphics, I think that's only a temporary thing. I think that we should still expect more out of these systems, especially if they're going to start charging more than the previous generation. It sounds like both of these new systems are going to be around $500. And it also sounds like the PS5 is going to be way difficult to get at launch. It sounds like they're going to have a lot less units than the PS4 had at launch and the Xbox One had at launch. I know Xbox Ones were pretty easy to get at launch because nobody wanted to really buy it at the time. I know there was definitely quite a few people that were buying it, but because it came with the Kinect and because of the Kinect driving that price point higher, with this new generation, it's going to be interesting to see how these systems launch. Because the previous generation had a couple weird hiccups in the launch. PS4 didn't really, it didn't have a whole lot of amazing titles. I remember seeing all of them come out, and I'm like, I could care less, I couldn't care less. There's like Knack, and there was Infamous. I know a lot of people enjoyed Infamous, but I wasn't a huge fan. There was nothing really that pulled me in. And then when Little Big Planet came out, it was not even good because it wasn't made by the same developers. There were a lot of missteps in the launch of that system when it came to titles. And then the Xbox One, on the other hand, oh my god, what a nightmare of a launch when you think about it. The system, first, before it was even announced, they shot themselves in the foot by saying no used games. And then they forced you to get the Kinect, which raised the price higher of this system. The controllers you had to buy an adapter for that still has in the bottom. There's that adapter slot that you don't really need anymore, and you just plug in your headphones there, but you couldn't do that at launch. I still have old controllers that you have to have the damn adapter for. I mean, there were just so many weird missteps. So I'm interested to see, besides stock shortages, what exactly the missteps are going to be for the next generational launch. That's my lowered expectations, is really the launch, not the system itself, because over time the PS4 and the Xbox One got a little bit more impressive with what they could do and what the games were like. I am going to lower my expectations for the launch, but not the system itself, because I feel like when the systems hit their stride, we are going to see much more advanced graphics. We are going to see things that wow us. So I don't understand these articles that just say we need to lower our expectations for next gen graphics, because every single time we're told that, I feel like we were told that in the last generation as well, because at the beginning it's just not impressive. And I feel like we're going to see the same missteps when it comes to launch titles. I'm seeing a lot of launch titles doing the same thing as the Xbox 360 to Xbox One, PS3 to PS4 jump, because there's all these weird cross-generational games. I think it was more prevalent in the 360 and Xbox One, if I remember correctly. There might have been Black Flag on the PS3 and PS4. I don't remember. And that really bummed out a lot of people, including myself, because they held back those graphics. They held back all the improvements because they wanted it to work for the larger audience. And that's what we're going to see for the first couple years, especially as they're doing a lot of this cross-generational support. The more cross-gen support, the less we're going to see in advances in graphics. We're just going to see them holding back for a while, because the audience is still going to be mostly Xbox One users and not Xbox Series X users, just like it's going to be mostly PS4 users and not PS5, unless the price is insane. And even if the price is insanely reasonable, that's what I meant by insane, not insanely high, that wouldn't make any sense, then I don't know. It's very interesting to see how well these systems are going to do at launch, because of what's been going on with the economy and everything else. I feel like that's going to limit the adoption rate that we saw from the PS3 to PS4 and the 360 to Xbox One. I mean, I guess there wasn't a huge adoption rate of the Xbox One, just look at the numbers, but the massive adoption rate of the people moving from PS3 to PS4, I don't know that we're going to see that happen again unless they get that price low enough, because of how many people don't have jobs, how many people are getting pay cuts like myself, how many people are just dealing with financial situations because of what's going on. It's going to be interesting, from stock shortages to adoption rates to launch titles and cross-generational support. There's a lot of parallels between the last launch and this launch, and I think we're going to see the same sort of disappointing upgrades, but only at the beginning. A couple years in is normally when I recommend people to make the switch, because that's when people are going to start seeing big exclusives coming to these systems. Not so much the Series X if you've got a PC already, but if you don't have a PC, then you'll have those big exclusives later on. Because I guess not even Halo is launching with the Xbox Series X anymore, and I feel like that was going to be a huge push for that system. I think we should still definitely expect amazing things from the next generation, but not at first, because every single launch seems to be disappointment. At least the past couple generations have been disappointment. The PS3, well, the Switch didn't really ever launch. That was just it kind of died on the platform. PS4 and the Xbox One, I mean, they all had not that great of a launch, in my opinion. I mean, you might have loved Knack. I don't know. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. If you think there's going to be a huge adoption rate, you think the fucking consoles are going to fly off the shelves. I'm sure they will, but I don't know if over time it's going to be as quick. The adoption rate of the PS4 is insane, and I don't think that's what's going to happen again. And let me know what you think. Like the video if you guys liked it, subscribe for more content, and as always, have a fantastic day. See you guys.